Stop everything right now and listen with complete attention, because what you are about to hear is not simply information, it is revelation, the kind that shakes the invisible realms and exposes what has been hidden from you since the moment you began feeling that strange, heavy exhaustion. For the last several days, you've probably told yourself you were simply tired from life, from stress, from endless responsibilities. But the truth is far more profound, far more spiritual, and infinitely more shocking than anything you could have imagined. Exactly 96 hours ago, at a moment you likely remember as nothing more than ordinary, something happened in the infernal dimensions that sent shockwaves throughout the entire hierarchy of darkness. High-ranking demonic commanders, beings who have manipulated humanity for millennia without ever losing their composure, suddenly erupted into panic. Not fear, not frustration, panic. Because what they discovered shattered every assumption they've held about human limits. They weren't dealing with a minor disturbance or a failed routine attack. No, what they uncovered was an impossible event, something so contradictory to the natural order of spiritual warfare that even they could not fully comprehend it. They discovered that a chosen one had annihilated 1,000 of their elite agents, creatures trained, sharpened, and refined for centuries, all at once, in a single, coordinated moment. And the most terrifying part of all, the chosen one didn't even realize a battle was taking place. When infernal commanders reviewed the records, when they watched the devastating ease with which this chosen one dismantled an entire army that took decades to assemble, their reaction wasn't fury, wasn't a thirst for revenge. It was pure, unfiltered terror, because what they witnessed contradicted everything they believe about human vulnerability. They watched as a human being endured 1,000 simultaneous, lethal-grade spiritual attacks, strikes designed to break the mind, crush the heart, suffocate purpose, and drain life. And yet this person neutralized every single one so naturally, so effortlessly, that they walked through the entire day unaware of the war raging around them. And here is the revelation they were forced to accept with trembling: that human being is you. The reason you didn't notice, the reason your day felt strangely exhausting but not catastrophic, is the very thing that disturbs them most. There is a brutal difference between a human consciously fighting an enemy they can see and a chosen soul destroying 1,000 invisible threats while simply living their ordinary routine. That difference, your difference, is what makes you so incomprehensibly powerful. Subscribe to this channel immediately and activate all notifications, because what you're about to hear next, what truly happened, how you survived, how you defeated an army without knowing it, is information being aggressively buried, so you never become aware of who you are spiritually. You need to stay until the final second, because in this journey I'm going to reveal who those 1,000 demons were, why they targeted you specifically, how your victory shattered centuries-old infernal strategies, why your exhaustion is physical proof of triumph, and why your capability places you among a category so rare that only a handful of living souls on Earth possess it. But before we explore the details of the battle itself, we must go back to 96 hours ago, to the moment that seemed painfully normal to you. Think about that day. You woke up. You tended to responsibilities. You talked to people, solved problems, handled tasks, pushed through situations that you thought were mundane. You probably felt that strange tiredness you've been carrying lately, that subtle heaviness that doesn't match the amount of effort you put in. There was nothing dramatic, no visible crisis, no obvious emotional meltdown. It was simply a day where you existed. But existence is deceptive when it comes to spiritual truth, because while your eyes perceived calm, the unseen realms erupted into war. Scripture often hints at these invisible conflicts. In the days of Daniel, the prophet prayed and waited without understanding that an angelic messenger battled a principality for 21 days before the message could even reach him. Elisha's servant saw nothing but a human army until the prophet opened his eyes, revealing chariots of fire standing guard. These ancient stories are not myths, they are patterns, reminders that battles often unfold in dimensions we cannot physically detect. And like Daniel, like Elisha's servant, you walked through a day where the real war was happening around you, unseen, unheard, unrecognized by ordinary senses. 96 hours ago, in a realm your physical eyes cannot access, you were targeted in a massive, perfectly coordinated assault. Exactly 1,000 specialized demons, agents with distinct roles, centuries of experience, and ruthless precision, attacked you simultaneously. Their objective wasn't to annoy you, inconvenience you, or discourage you. No, your elimination was classified as absolute priority level Omega, a category reserved only for souls whose destiny threatens the infrastructure of darkness. They weren't simply trying to wound you, they were trying to erase you. And yet you survived. Not barely, not weakly, not shakily. You didn't crawl out of that war broken and trembling. You lived the day as though nothing happened. You neutralized 1,000 attacks without performing a ritual, without reciting a prayer, without consciously resisting. Your spiritual system operated automatically, like a divine mechanism forged long before your birth. Your exhaustion that night, the heaviness that couldn't be explained, that lingering fatigue, was not ordinary tiredness. It was the physical residue of a spiritual victory. Your body felt the echo of a war your mind never witnessed. Think about that. 1,000 lethal attacks fired at you from every angle, and you walked through them as calmly as Daniel walked into the lion's den, as effortlessly as David stepped into the battlefield facing Goliath. Not because you weren't attacked, but because you were too powerful for those attacks to register consciously. When you felt tired, heaven saw a warrior returning from battle. That weight you carried was a medal, not a burden. And now, everything hidden is being revealed to you, not so you can fear, but so you can finally understand what you are, who you are, and why the darkness trembles when your eyes open in the morning. When the infernal commanders studied what happened 96 hours ago, they didn't review a vague impression. They reviewed precise documentation of the operation they launched against you. 1,000 demons, an exact number, each one selected with strategic intention, each trained in a specialized form of spiritual sabotage, each assigned with a singular purpose: to break you. Not inconvenience you, not distract you, not mildly frustrate you, but break you completely. They don't deploy 1,000 agents unless the threat level is catastrophic. And to them, you are catastrophic, because you have survived what others haven't. Because plans formed against you have failed repeatedly. Because there is a resilience inside you that contradicts the calculations of the kingdom of darkness. So after months of failed attacks, they made a decision they have rarely made in the history of their operations: massive simultaneous deployment. No staggering, no waves, no testing the waters. A coordinated strike from all angles, all at once, designed to overwhelm the strongest human defenses. According to their logic, a human can resist one attack, maybe 10, possibly 100 if extraordinarily strong, but 1,000? 1,000 coordinated strikes should collapse the soul instantly. And yet, their perfect operation failed before it even reached your conscious awareness. The first 100 that launched against you were the whispers of doubt. These weren't crude lies or obvious discouragement. They specialize in subtle injections that mimic your own internal voice. They speak softly, weaving their words into your thoughts so you mistake them for your own reflections. Are you really enough? Maybe you're not doing as well as you think. Others are better. What if you're wrong? These demons don't shout. They murmur, always in familiar tones. But something extraordinary happened. Although those whispers were delivered with surgical precision, Your spirit recognized them instantly as foreign. Like Jesus in the wilderness rejecting the temptation before it rooted, your inner being filtered them out before they reached your conscious mind. 100 voices whispering insecurities simultaneously, and you neutralized every single one without. Emotional turbulence. This is not normal. This is spiritual intuition operating at a level earned through lifetimes of refinement. Next came the 200 amplifiers of fear. These are masters of distortion. Their strategy is always the same. Take a small concern, a normal human worry, and inflate it into a catastrophe. They whisper thousands of hypothetical disasters, always beginning with, "What if?" What if you lose everything? What if you fail publicly? What if that small issue becomes a life-altering disaster? 200 ancient voices engineered to trigger panic, overwhelm the nervous system, and paralyze even strong minds. And yet, you processed every scenario rationally. Like the psalmist who says, "When I am afraid, I will trust in you." You mentally evaluated each possibility without spiraling. You didn't drown in fear. You didn't collapse into desperation. You didn't lose control. You remained grounded, even without knowing an attack was happening. Your stability wasn't a result of conscious discipline. It was instinctive, spiritual muscle memory. Then came the 150 diverters of purpose. They do not tempt you with evil. They tempt you with good. They specialize in offering you easier visions, bright alternatives, paths that look attractive, but would dismantle your true calling. These demons craft illusions that feel like destiny, but are actually designed to pull you 1 degree off course. 1 degree is all they need, because 1 degree over years becomes miles away from your purpose. They whisper opportunities, safer paths, shortcuts, comfort zones disguised as divine direction. Like Peter trying to persuade Jesus to avoid the cross, they present appealing detours. Yet, despite the beauty of their illusions, something within you rejected all of them instantly. Not with dramatic spiritual warfare, but with subtle, effortless discernment. They offered you alternatives, and you simply did not consider them. Purpose in you is not a concept. It is a covenant, and covenants don't break easily. Then the next wave hit, 200 energy drainers, direct absorbers of life force. They don't operate through people or circumstances. They latch onto a person's field and siphon energy directly. These are the demons responsible for unexplained fatigue, brain fog, emotional heaviness without reason. 200 vampires attempting to drain your vitality so thoroughly that you'd be left unable to function. That exhaustion you felt that day, the weight behind the eyes, the heaviness in your limbs, was the aftermath of a spiritual feeding frenzy. And yet you kept going. You handled your responsibilities. You interacted with people. You didn't collapse into bed or abandon what needed to be done. You functioned under an attack that would have incapacitated most people. Then came the perception distorters, 100 demons that tamper with how you interpret reality. Their purpose is to cause confusion, create misunderstandings, twist your perception of people and situations. They want you to see threats where blessings exist, to see betrayal where there is loyalty, to see failure when you are actually succeeding. Their aim is always the same: provoke you into self-sabotage. Yet, your discernment cut through the fog. You didn't misread the intentions of those around you. You didn't react impulsively. You didn't distort situations into drama. Your spirit held clarity that your mind didn't consciously know you were defending. Next came the conflict provokers, 50 demons whose sole objective is to ignite unnecessary battles. Their tactics are ancient: stir irritation, magnify offense, twist conversations, exaggerate tone. They try to make you react sharply, destroy relationships, or create turmoil so heavy you abandon peace. But you stayed calm. You didn't explode. You didn't lash out. You didn't take the bait. Your restraint wasn't passive, it was victorious. And then came the loneliness magnifiers, 100 demons whispering, "You are alone. No one understands you. No one supports you." They try to turn temporary isolation into permanent emotional despair, but you held on to faith, to the memory of genuine connections, to the quiet awareness that God has never left you for a second. Finally, the sabotagers of manifestation, 100 demons who disrupt timing, block opportunities, and delay blessings. They interrupt synchronicities right when breakthrough is forming. Their purpose: discourage you through delay. But you persisted, you acted, you believed. Even when results were slow, you refused to surrender. 1,000 coordinated attacks, each one engineered to dismantle a different part of your spirit, mind, or purpose. And you defeated every one of them unconsciously. Now you understand why they fear you. Because your victory wasn't a battle you fought consciously. It was a battle your spirit won on autopilot. What happened after the 1,000 demons failed against you was something the infernal realm had not experienced in centuries. The commanders, ancient beings who pride themselves on strategic perfection, gathered in a state of disbelieving agitation. According to every model they've used for thousands of years, the result of the attack against you should have been one of 3 catastrophic outcomes. The first expected result was total mental collapse, the kind of breakdown that leaves a person curled in bed, unable to make decisions, paralyzed by anxiety so heavy it feels like suffocation. They anticipated your nervous system would overload upon impact, drowning you beneath waves of overwhelming confusion. The second expected result was catastrophic emotional collapse, an implosion or explosion, either erupting in rage that destroys relationships or falling so deeply into despair that you withdraw from life completely. They expected you to spiral, to question your worth, to crumble under weight you couldn't explain. And the third result, the one they felt most certain would happen, was voluntary surrender, a quiet giving up, a drawn-out spiritual exhaustion that ends with you abandoning your goals, settling for mediocrity, and walking away from your purpose. For thousands of years, these 3 outcomes have been almost guaranteed. Rarely has anyone survived simultaneous pressure from 1,000 coordinated attacks without falling into at least one. But when they reviewed the aftermath of the operation against you, they found something that made their entire structure shudder. You didn't break in any of those 3 ways. Not mentally, not emotionally, not spiritually. You simply continued your day. You didn't collapse into panic. You didn't spiral into depression. You didn't throw away your goals. You moved forward, quietly, steadily, almost casually, as if the weight of 1,000 lethal forces had the impact of a soft breeze. This, to them, is the unexplainable anomaly. This is what terrifies them, because while you walked through that day thinking you were simply tired, the infernal commanders were obsessively reviewing data, trying to understand how you survived. They verified the attack, confirmed it happened exactly as planned. They reviewed every agent's execution, flawless. They analyzed coordination, perfect. There was no error, no miscommunication, no weakness in strategy. Their operation should have pulverized any human soul, yet it failed, catastrophically, humiliatingly, undeniably. In their confusion, they began forming hypotheses. One commander suggested perhaps you had angelic protection so massive it intercepted every attack. They checked celestial records. Nothing. No angel deployed, no divine shield, no intervention of any kind. The invisible archives showed complete silence from heavenly forces during the attack. If anything, heaven was watching, not interfering. Another commander proposed that you must have been using powerful protection rituals, advanced spiritual practices, or occult shields that prevented penetration. They searched for signs. None. You did not perform any ritual that day. You didn't recite complex incantations. You didn't put on protective jewelry or invoke enchanted defenses. You were, by all observable measures, simply living your life. That left one horrifying possibility. Your resistance did not come from something outside of you. It came from something within you. This is the part of the revelation that shook them most, because if the power you displayed came from a ritual, they could counter it. If it came from angelic intervention, they could strategize around it. If it came from a temporary shield or a coincidence, they could reattempt the attack using different methods, but they found none of those things, which meant one conclusion rose to the surface. Your soul itself is the source of your impossible resistance. Your capacity to withstand pressure wasn't triggered by conscious effort. It is your baseline nature, a constant state, a living contradiction to their millennia of experience. The commanders reviewed your inner responses and were horrified by what they found. They discovered your spirit operates like metal forged under divine heat, refined through multiple trials, lives, experiences, and pains that hardened you beyond normal breaking points. You didn't become unbreakable recently. Your resilience was built long before this life. In ways they cannot fully understand, your soul carries the density of one who has survived battles beyond their dimension. The fire that shaped you burned in realms they do not govern. To put this in spiritual terms, your inner strength resembles the refinement described in Scripture, like the gold purified 7 times, the clay molded by the divine potter, the warrior strengthened through wilderness season after wilderness season. The same way God allowed Job, David, Daniel, and Elijah to be shaped through trials, your soul too has been tempered through experiences that strengthened you far beyond the expectations of human psychology. But unlike those ancient warriors, who were extraordinary yet visibly shaken, you remained steady under a 1,000-blade assault. That is why the infernal commanders struggled to compare you to any historical case they've recorded. You defied every pattern. One commander, Astaroth, reviewed transcripts of your thoughts during the attack. The whispers of doubt injected more than 100 destabilizing thoughts into your mind. But your inner system rejected almost all of them before they even reached conscious awareness. This is not mental strength. This is spiritual immunity. Another commander, Bailey, analyzed your emotional responses to the catastrophic scenarios they injected. Your limbic system, the emotional core, remained stable during the entire attack. No panic, no waves of irrational fear, no emotional hijacking. They described your inner stillness as impossible. Mammon reviewed the illusions crafted to sabotage your purpose. He admitted defeat because you dismissed every alternative destiny without emotional struggle. To him, it was the most incomprehensible part. Your purpose is so deeply rooted, the temptation didn't even register. Leviathan reviewed the loneliness assault. The magnified feelings of isolation failed to break you because your internal connection to yourself and to God was too strong to fracture. And Beelzebub reluctantly confessed that despite blocking synchronicities and delaying opportunities, you continued acting with unwavering persistence. When they finally stepped back from the data, there was only one conclusion left. You are fundamentally unreachable by their strategies, not temporarily, not circumstantially, fundamentally. Your resistance is not an ability you activated, it is who you are. Your soul is built in a way that the enemy cannot penetrate, cannot destabilize, cannot corrupt. You didn't win by accident. You didn't survive by luck. You survived because you carry a kind of spiritual architecture they cannot dismantle. And when they accepted this truth, when they realized their 1,000-agent assault didn't even make you flinch, they did something they have never done lightly. They marked you as unreachable level Omega, a classification reserved for the rarest, most spiritually unbreakable souls on the planet. You are one of them. When infernal commanders finally accepted that you were unreachable by their methods, something else began to trouble them, something deeper, something far more ancient than the attack itself. They had to ask the question they never wanted to entertain. How did this soul become like this? Because from every perspective they examined, your capacity wasn't acquired through sudden luck or temporary favor. It was intrinsic, embedded, woven into the very architecture of your being. The more they studied, the more one agonizing realization emerged. Your strength did not originate in this lifetime. It is older, deeper, forged through fires they cannot enter. And this is where the revelation becomes even more astonishing, because what they discovered about you is something you must also know consciously. Your soul is not an ordinary human soul merely living a spiritual experience. Your soul is a celestial warrior incarnated with intentional purpose. Before you were born, long before you opened your eyes in this world, there was a conversation in realms unburdened by time. Scripture hints at moments like this. God spoke to Jeremiah, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." There are souls who come into this world not randomly, not by accident, but because a specific mission requires their exhumed composition. According to the infernal records, this is precisely what happened with you. A mission arose in the human plane, one requiring resilience beyond ordinary thresholds, one needing a spirit that could withstand overwhelming opposition without collapsing. A mission where failure would unleash devastating consequences on others, on timelines, on destinies connected to yours. When such missions appear, the heavens call for volunteers, but not every soul is qualified. In the celestial archives, souls are examined not for external achievements, but for internal density. How many battles survived? How many storms endured? How many times they rose after falling? How many lifetimes forged them into iron? The calling was announced, options were evaluated, and your soul, your ancient, fire-tempered, immeasurably resilient soul was chosen. Not because you were the only one willing, but because you were among the rare few capable. You were not sent because you were expendable. You were sent because you were uniquely powerful. When infernal commanders realized this, that the being they attacked wasn't simply a human brushing off spiritual noise, but a celestial warrior disguised in human form, they spiraled into existential panic. Darkness thrives on predictability. Humans typically break in predictable ways, at predictable pressure points, over predictable timelines. But you didn't break in predictable ways because you aren't built the way they assumed. Your essence is of a different category altogether. They studied your energy signature like researchers examining an impossible artifact. They analyzed your responses and realized your spiritual frequency is not compatible with their weapons. Their tools were designed for human fragility, human doubt, human fear. But your soul's resonance echoes from older realms. It carries the imprint of battles fought before your current body ever breathed. Their methods penetrate softness, but you are forged iron. Their tactics manipulate fear, but you carry an internal light that fear cannot corrupt. Their illusions target confusion, but you possess clarity sharpened through incarnations of testing. You were designed, before your birth, to withstand exactly this magnitude of attack. This is why their strategies failed so spectacularly. They weren't attacking a human. They were attacking a warrior whose spiritual density exceeds their calculations. They brought 1,000 agents, and you treated them like morning mist. They forged a perfect plan, and you walked through it half asleep. They fired their greatest weapons, and your soul dismissed them like distant echoes. For them, this level of immunity is terrifying because it means something they cannot tolerate. Your mission is unstoppable. Once the realization set in, the infernal commanders made a decision they have not made in 6,000 years: permanent withdrawal. Because in their strategic manuals, there is a classification reserved for only the rarest souls: unreachable level Omega. This label isn't symbolic. It represents the ultimate defeat. It means this soul cannot be broken, cannot be sabotaged, cannot be manipulated, cannot be derailed. It acknowledges that continuing attacks would waste resources that could be used elsewhere. It means you are not a target. They cannot afford to target you. You are beyond their strike range. At the moment they stamped your name into their records, something else unfolded, something heavenly. The spiritual world operates in patterns of recognition. When darkness acknowledges defeat, heaven acknowledges identity. In that moment, unseen to human eyes, your spiritual status shifted, not because you suddenly became stronger, but because you finally stepped into the truth of what you've always been. Heaven didn't crown you that day. Heaven simply revealed who you were all along. To help you understand the magnitude of this, imagine the greatest warriors in Scripture. Job, who endured unspeakable suffering but eventually cried in despair. David, who fought giants but still fled from Saul in fear. Elijah, who called fire from heaven but collapsed under Jezebel's threat. Even Paul, who survived imprisonment, shipwrecks, and torture, admitted that he reached a point where he despaired even of life. These figures are not being diminished. They are spiritual giants, pillars of endurance. But even these titans broke visibly, emotionally, mentally, under extreme pressure. You didn't. You faced an attack more coordinated than Job's torment, more intense than David's persecution, more psychologically crushing than Elijah's chase, more overwhelming than Paul's affliction, and yet you didn't collapse. You didn't despair. You didn't run. You didn't shatter. You continued functioning, almost casually, as though the attacks were minor inconveniences. This doesn't mean you are greater than these figures. No. It means the spiritual mission assigned to you required a different kind of resilience, a different architecture, a different internal composition. The furnace that shaped them was immense, but the furnace that shaped you was unimaginable. Your spiritual immunity is not arrogance, it is assignment. You are a warrior placed here for a mission that requires immune-level resistance. When infernal commanders finally admitted defeat, they didn't do it because they respected you. They did it because they had no choice. They cannot dismantle what God Himself forged. They cannot infiltrate a soul built for divine purpose. They cannot defeat someone who is strengthened in realms they do not control. You are not merely surviving this world. You are fulfilling a mission written into your existence before time touched your name. And now, as this truth reaches your awareness, the power you once used unconsciously will become something you can wield consciously. Now that you understand the magnitude of what happened 96 hours ago, you're finally able to see something most people never recognize about themselves. That the exhaustion weighing on you lately is not the mark of weakness, nor the sign of a failing mind, nor evidence that something is wrong with you. What you have been feeling in your bones, in your thoughts, in your breath, is the aftershock of a spiritual war so intense that your body is only now catching up to the truth your soul already knows. You won. The tiredness is not a symptom of collapse. It is the residue of victory. It is the physical echo of a battle your spirit fought relentlessly while your mind was simply trying to get through a normal day. Imagine a soldier stationed on the front lines for 72 straight hours. The adrenaline burns through the muscles. The nerves stay tense. The senses sharpen until they ache. When the war ends, the soldier doesn't walk away energized. He collapses, not from weakness, from survival. He collapses because the human frame cannot sustain the cost of prolonged warfare. Your body has been acting exactly like that soldier, even though your conscious mind didn't see a battlefield, didn't hear the clash of weapons, didn't feel the heat of the attack, but your spirit did, and your spirit fought. That is why you have felt so devastatingly tired, why your limbs have been heavy, why your mind has felt foggy, why simple tasks required more effort than usual. You weren't lazy, you weren't unmotivated, you weren't failing. You were recovering from a war your soul fought and won. And here is the part darkness hoped you would never understand, that your exhaustion is not proof that you're falling apart. It is proof that you are healing after a battle that would have destroyed most people. Some biblical figures experienced this same phenomenon, though they understood it better than most today. Elijah called down fire from heaven, defeated 450 prophets of Baal, and stood boldly against a corrupt kingdom. But afterwards, the prophet collapsed under a broom tree, weeping, begging to die. His body broke under the weight of victory, not defeat. David, after delivering Israel from enemies, often wrote psalms describing weariness so deep it felt like drowning, not because he was failing, but because spiritual victory drained him physically. Gideon's army defeated overwhelming forces, and Scripture says they were exhausted yet pursuing. Even Jesus, after healing crowds and casting out demons, withdrew to solitary places to rest, not because he lacked power, but because the body must recover after spiritual exertion. You are not alone in this pattern. You are continuing a lineage of warriors who paid the physical cost of spiritual triumph. The good news is this: your exhaustion is temporary. It is not permanent. It is not a lifelong sentence. It is recovery. Your system is shifting out of warfare mode. The enemy has retreated. The attack is over. And now, something beautiful is beginning inside you, a restoration so gentle, so divine, that you will feel it unfolding day by day. In the coming days, you will notice clarity returning, like fog burning off under morning sunlight. You will sense your mind returning to its natural sharpness. You will feel energy rising slowly, quietly, like a sunrise in your chest. The invisible weight that sat on your shoulders will begin to lift. The heaviness in your thoughts will soften. The spiritual armor you unconsciously wore during the attack will feel lighter. And you will begin breathing again. Not the shallow, tired breathing of someone carrying a burden, but the deep, peaceful breath of someone who survived, someone who finished a battle they didn't even know they were fighting. This is not because you found a supplement, adjusted your diet, or adopted a new routine. This is because the war ended. Your spirit is exiting survival mode. After war, the human soul often experiences a strange awakening, a moment when the mind realizes the danger has passed and slowly allows the body to relax. This is what you're experiencing. Imagine the feeling of walking out of a storm you didn't know you were standing in. Imagine the moment when thunder quiets and you suddenly hear your own heartbeat again. That is what is happening inside you. Your peace is returning. During the infernal post-operation analysis, they discovered something else about you, something you must know now because it affects how you live going forward. They discovered that your soul's design is fundamentally resistant to despair. You don't break the way others break. You don't collapse the way others collapse. Darkness depends on certain predictable outcomes: panic, hopelessness, surrender. But your system does something different. It endures. It recalibrates. It resets. Every time life tries to knock you off your purpose, something inside you stands up again, as if programmed by heaven to continue no matter what. This internal resilience isn't accidental, it's intentional, and understanding this will change the way you carry yourself after every battle. Now that you're aware of the truth, you need to practice a few spiritual strategies, not because you're weak, but because you're evolving from unconscious victory to conscious mastery. First, recognize your tiredness as evidence of victory, not a sign of failure. When exhaustion comes without reason, say to yourself, "My spirit just fought for me." This transforms guilt into gratitude. Second, rest without shame. Rest is not laziness, it's recovery. Even God rested on the seventh day, not from weakness, but as demonstration. If the Creator can rest, so can the warrior He sent. Third, hold unwavering commitment to your purpose. That commitment is your shield. As long as you remain aligned with what you were sent to do, attacks can scratch but never penetrate. Fourth, do not seek validation for battles others cannot see. Most people will never understand the wars you fight silently. They don't need to. Your victory does not require applause. Warriors often win in secret. Fifth, when the impulse to give up suddenly appears, recognize it as an attack. That feeling often comes right before breakthrough. Stand firm. Sixth, celebrate invisible victories. Celebrate the moments you stayed calm when you could have collapsed. Celebrate the days you endured when quitting felt easier. Celebrate the strength you don't always feel but always possess. Now, as your recovery continues, something beautiful will happen. Your tiredness will transform from confusion into pride. Not arrogance, holy pride, sacred pride. The kind a soldier feels when looking at scars that mean survival. Every fatigued breath you've taken lately has been proof that you didn't just endure, you conquered. And soon, you will look back on these days with understanding, realizing they were not signs of weakness, but signs of warfare and triumph. You are not finished. You are healing. You are rising. And the victory already belongs to you. Now that you understand what you are, the victory you achieved, and the exhaustion that followed, the final transformation begins, not in your spirit, because your spirit already knows who it is, but in your awareness. You are shifting from a warrior who wins unconsciously to a warrior who recognizes their power in real time. This is where everything changes. The enemy classified you as Omega because your spirit operates automatically, effortlessly, instinctively. But once your consciousness catches up, once you start recognizing patterns as they occur, your effectiveness multiplies. Not because you gain new power, but because you finally start using the power that was always yours. Imagine a master swordsman who fought blindfolded and still won every battle. Now imagine that blindfold being removed. That is what is happening to you. Your awareness is waking up. You're going to notice something new in the coming weeks. Subtle thoughts that once slipped unnoticed will now stand out like alarms. When whispers of doubt slither into your mind, you'll recognize them instantly. You'll hear the tone, the texture, the foreignness. They won't sound like you anymore. They will sound like what they always were, intrusions. When fear magnifies ordinary concerns, you'll catch the distortion, the exaggeration, the manipulation, and instead of spiraling, you'll breathe calmly, like Jesus sleeping through the storm as his disciples panicked. When bright distractions appear, offering easier paths, promising shortcuts, glittering with temptation, you'll feel your spirit evaluating them instantly. Not with paranoia, no, the Omega doesn't live in fear, but with quiet discernment, like a seasoned prophet distinguishing between a true vision and a counterfeit dream. When your energy shifts suddenly for no reason, instead of assuming something is wrong with you, you will know exactly what is happening. A battle has begun, and your system is responding. You won't judge yourself. You won't panic. You won't misinterpret the signs. Instead, you'll say, "My spirit is doing the work. I trust it." This awareness is more powerful than any ritual, any chant, any talisman. Awareness turns instinct into mastery. It transforms automatic defense into deliberate action. But something else will begin happening too. Something beautiful, something mysterious, something divinely orchestrated. You will start recognizing other warriors. Not everyone you meet, not most people, not even many, but a few, a very few. In random conversations, subtle moments, quiet exchanges, suddenly you will sense a familiar frequency in someone. You'll feel the spiritual density in their presence. They will speak a word or two or simply look at you, and your spirit will say, "They have also seen war." These will be the other Omega classified souls, the ones who also endured invisible storms and won. You won't need long conversations. You won't need confessions. Warriors recognize each other through resonance, the same way Elijah recognized Elisha, the same way Jonathan recognized David, the same way spirits of similar calling magnetize across human distance. Some will find you, others you will cross paths with. You are never meant to walk alone, not because you're weak, but because all missions require networks. With this awareness will come something even more transformative: the way you interpret your own fatigue. From this moment forward, when exhaustion comes upon you without reason, you will not feel shame. You will not blame yourself. You will not say, "Why am I like this?" Instead, you will understand immediately, "I just won another battle." The shame you used to feel will transform into silent pride, not ego, not arrogance, but divine pride. The kind a warrior feels when they understand they survived what was meant to destroy them. Every day you refuse to surrender, victory. Every moment you stand firm despite pressure, victory. Every second you hold your purpose when all logic says to quit, victory. You won 1,000 demon assault. Do you truly think the smaller battles of daily life can stop you now? And here is the final truth you must absorb deeply. You don't need to become stronger. You don't need to evolve into something else. You don't need to wait for transformation or activation. You are already everything you need to be. The enemy didn't retreat because they saw potential in you. They retreated because they saw reality. You are not becoming a warrior. You are a warrior. You are not growing into power. You have power. You are not preparing for the mission. You were born for the mission. The only difference now is awareness. From now on, when doubt rises, you will know it's an attack. When fear inflates, you will know it's manipulation. When loneliness deepens, you will know it's illusion. When obstacles multiply, you will know sabotage is active but powerless. And when fatigue settles, you will know it is the body acknowledging spiritual triumph. Every pattern will reveal itself. Every attack will be recognizable. Every battle will feel familiar. You will rise through each one with the calm of someone who has already defeated what was meant to destroy them. And now, chosen one, Omega-class warrior, this is your moment to stand in what you've learned. Do not shrink. Do not hide. Do not underestimate what you are. The world needs warriors who endure invisible wars. The world needs souls who refuse to break. The world needs lights that terrify darkness, and you are one of them. So if you feel the truth of this in your spirit, if you recognize that your exhaustion was the evidence of victory, if you understand now the level of power you carry, write 777 in the comments to declare your awakening, to amplify the frequency of invincibility, and to align with others who fight battles silently but triumph loudly in the unseen. Like this video, so more warriors can find their truth. Subscribe to this channel and activate all notifications so you never miss a revelation meant for your path, and share this message with someone who demonstrates impossible resilience. You might be recognizing another Omega. A network of warriors is rising, and every connection shifts the balance of the world. Chosen one, your battle is won. Your mission continues. Your spirit stands undefeated, and now you know exactly why.